Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Docs Outside the Box. This one is a special episode. We got Dr. Brittne Halford, who is the co-host of the Wealth Minded MD podcast, which is a new and upcoming podcast that y'all need to be looking at and listening to. Very briefly, Dr. Brittne is an internal medicine doctor up in Boston, one of the worst places that I hate to hang out with. Hey,
why you hated on her in her introduction?
Boston is whack, and you know it. It's all good. Your streets are too small. It's too cold. And
people do park however they want.
Dr.
Front,
Brittne,
back,
don't take
sideways.
this personally, but Boston is whack. You know it too. But Dr. Brittne, she's like, why is all this hate starting with this?
It's her introduction. Good Lord. Ain't nobody come to the show no more.
She is married to a psychiatrist. And not only is she dope, right? She's an internal medicine doctor. She puts up with Boston. She's doing her thing. But yo, check this, guys. She paid off $138,000 in 2 years and 9 months.
Ooh, Alfred, give us a little confetti. Woohoo!
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a lot of dedication. That's a lot of coins. That's a lot of, cheese that you get and you're like, nah, yes. I'm not going to spend on this. Yes. Nah, I'm not going to save this. I'm just going to give this straight to whoever, Sally Mae or whoever it was, Nelnet, and that's it.
Yep.
So that's what's up.
Somebody.
So Dr. Brittne, welcome to Docs Outside the Box. We love you. So it's not with the, everything I said in the beginning is just, we just joking around, but welcome to the show.
You really don't like Boston.
Your boss is whack.
you know it too. Come on, it has grown on me. So thank you for having me on the show. I'm super excited to have this conversation, and I already feel the energy of how it's going to be. So I'm going to push back a little bit. I know this is your show, but you called me out in the introduction. So we're going to see what
if you want to use your capital to defend Boston, go ahead. It's on you. It's on you. But hey.
I don't. It has grown on me, and it offers a lot of great things, and I can understand like the historical racism, segregation, and some of that definitely plays into how it is perceived. But we are growing and choosing to love Boston. So
there you go. There you go.
So how did you end up in Boston? Tell us a little bit about your journey from what med school you went to all the way to where you're at now.
Yeah. So I am originally from Flint, Michigan, born and raised.
Okay.
And yes,
okay.
That is a
all
whole
right.
nother conversation. But, I went to the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. So go blue. I'm a Wolverine. Okay. And from there, I went to Northwestern for medical school, and I got my medical degree and MPH there as well. Then I matriculated to WashU for residency and
St. Louis. Okay.
St. Louis. Love that. Then I got married, and we were doing long distance for a while. My husband went to Morehouse for his residency and in psychiatry. And there was an opportunity for us to move to Boston.
Familiar. When did he graduate from Morehouse residency?
So he completed his residency in 2018. Like the end of 2018 for residency.
I was gone by then.
Yeah.
I was gone by then.
You were
I was
long gone by then.
Because you don't know about me, Morehouse. Yo, that was my spot. I owned,
He owned Morehouse.
Oh, Morehouse. Yo, come on. That was my old stomping ground.
Okay.
Come on.
You
but
owned
your
Morehouse.
legacy precedes you, because I was talking to my husband. He was like, oh, yeah, I've connected with him once or twice. Yeah. So he maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm stroking egos over here. Let me stop.
My arm is hurting. For those of you watching on video, me just hit me like 5 times.
The best surgery resident ever, yo. The best surgical resident, yo. Morehouse Grady. What? All right, anyway, keep going. I'm hyped. This time.
So from there, my husband is a psychiatrist, and he wanted to do child psychiatry. And so he started at Boston Children's Hospital, and that's what led us to Boston. And
that is tough.
Honestly, I thought we were going to go back to Atlanta. I loved it. I was an attending at Emory. And while there, no one questioned my authority. No one questioned my intellect. And when there was some disagreements between other staff members and my assessment or evaluation of the patient, we just hashed it out. We just like, Dr. Brittne, what's going on? And we talked about it, and we did what was best for the patient. And when I moved to Boston, that was something that I still had to kind of work through and establish. And then my husband became the chief behavioral officer of the Boston Public Health Commission, which is an inaugural position, and he creates basically the mental health plan for the city of Boston. He works with the mayor's office. At that point in time, I was like, okay, this is a Black man assuming a new role, and I want him to do well. So we decided to stay. And we own 2 properties here. Our baby's there at school, and we're invested. You're invested. We're invested. And it's been great. It's been great. We found a really great church home and created our community. So we're grateful for Boston.
Now, how long have you guys been attendings for?
So I've been in attending since 2016. I graduated from residency. And my husband, so he did the child psych fellowship, and he did like a concurrent mix. I don't know. His pathway is not traditional. So there's some overlap. So if I quote this wrong, I'm sorry, babe. Because
I know your husband. Isn't your husband with Harvard?
He is with Harvard. Yeah,
Dr.
he
Simon?
Dr. Simon. Yeah, Kevin Simon.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, this is sounding way too familiar. I know.
I know who that is. Who that is. Yeah.
So he did an addiction medicine fellowship in addition to his child psych fellowship. So I think he became an attending like 2021. I think, but my dates might be off. So I apologize if my dates are off.
Yeah.
See, in our toxic household, whoever finished first would just be sunning the other person, right? So
that would be me finishing first.
Yeah.
Okay.
She suns me all the time. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I'm an attending too. She's like,
not before I was. Okay. I'll grade you.
Anyway, but that's amazing. So you guys have been roughly at least 8 years on your end that you have been in attending. Okay.
Yes.
Now, do you remember how much your debt was when you graduated from med school? Do you remember how much it was?
So I had $131,000 when I graduated from medical school.
Okay. And then by the time you finished residency, was it 138 or?
By the time I finished residency, it was 135. So basically from medical school, we all do these exit interviews where we meet. They would review your debt profile, your student loan debt profile, and they're like, okay, well, essentially what they told me at Northwestern is to enroll in the income-driven repayment plan and sign up for public service loan forgiveness. And so taking that advice, that's what I did. But we all know that, with student loans, I don't know, for me, I hated verifying my income and my employer every year for the public service loan forgiveness. We know that sometimes who they put in positions as representatives and administrators in the Department of Education are sometimes not the most knowledgeable. And so I just kind of hated just this reliance on the government to forgive my student loans. And at the time, public service loan forgiveness actually had...
That's my point.
Renee talks about that all the time. She says like, you have like, you spend your entire life trying to have major control over your career, how you study, the grades you get. And then all of a sudden, literally a major portion of your paycheck, you don't know if it's going to get forgiven at the end of 10 years. And
right.
It's kind of depending on who's in the government. So I can see that being a major issue for folks.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like when I talk to people about finances, it's all about control. It's all about strategy. It's all about understanding how your money is moving. And for me, that level of uncertainty, I just really didn't agree with. So I started paying a little bit extra when I was in residency. And once I graduated from residency, that's when I did a refinance. The economic conditions were different then, but I was able to refinance my student loans from a 6.8% interest rate to a 3.5% interest rate over a 5-year term. But, I was like, okay, if I could pay this monthly fee and I'm maxing out a 401k and I'm still traveling and I got cash flow, let me just get this gone. So
wait,
now,
just to be clear, so in residency, on a resident salary, you were paying more than what your minimum payment was.
So I was, yes, I
Wow.
was paying more than what my minimum payment was, because at that
That's
point in
pretty
time,
impressive.
I had determined that I was no longer going to seek forgiveness. And so if I had additional cash flow that was just sitting, now retrospectively, I realized I could have been doing some other things with my money that probably would have afforded more returns. But at that time, that was the one thing that I knew how to do. And that was the one debt that I knew would be a guaranteed return on investment. So it wouldn't be a set amount every single month. I didn't create a budget for the additional payments. But when I realized that all of my bills had been paid and I still had money to travel to go see my husband who was at Morehouse, and I had a little bit of money extra, then I would just throw the extra at the student loans.
Let me ask you, so that was a pretty savvy move, right? Because a lot of people who might get into medical school, get the loans to pay for medical school, graduate with a ton of debt, go through residency, might not necessarily be so savvy as to figure out that, well, I'm not going to do this loan repayment. I'm just going, I'm going to max out my 401k. Where did you learn to do all of that? Was that something that your parents instilled in you? Was it podcasts? Was it blogs? Like, where did you learn all of that?
And how did you not feel overwhelmed? Because I'll piggyback on top of that. Like,
don't piggyback on my question. Don't piggyback on my question.
So you want me to just write it down here?
Yeah, write it down and save it for later. She will take questions at the end.
Okay.
I love it.
How'd you learn all of that?
So, Renee, to answer your question, right? Your question. No, I'm just kidding. After I graduated from medical school and I had my exit interview and started making money, I had this revelation that I was the only doctor in my family at the time, and that I would have a huge responsibility of managing a large sum of money and having to do that well, because there were still people in my family who I desired to support, right? Not only just financially by giving them money, but also helping them to facilitate better stewardship over their money. So at that time, and I think this is still existing, but I don't listen to it as frequently, it was Marketplace Money on NPR. I was like an avid consumer of Marketplace Money on NPR. And they just taught essentially some of the basics. I also read the White Coat Investor book from James Dolly, and I really appreciate the knowledge that he shares about money and how physicians can be good stewards and good managers of their money. And then, reflecting on just my history, I am grown from Flint, Michigan, of low means. My mom's like, girl, don't say that. But essentially we were. Like, I did the retroactive calculations of how much money my mother earned and how our household size. And I realized that we were actually living under the federal poverty line for a good portion.
Yeah, it's real.
Growing up.
That's real. Yep. A lot of people don't think about it that way. Yeah. They don't think about it that way.
They don't. But, then when I think about it, my mom made a lot out of what she had. And she created these moments of joy out of little. So I didn't need to live in a nice area per se, or live in like this building. I know some of my co-residents, they lived in a building with a gym and all of these like luxurious
amenities.
things. Amenities. I didn't do that. I lived in a neighborhood that was safe. I shopped at Aldi's. I got all of my free meals through residency. I went to the gym that the residency paid for, that I got a discount for. And I lived pretty simply so that I could create cash flow that allowed me to achieve my goals.